Welcome to my new video. Today we're going to be investigating the idea of positional sacrifices to just look at the spirit of it, what it really means, what the idea is, and how an advantage looks in a real game. And coincidentally, the game I'm going to be showing, because like I said, I'm always looking at this, at least I'm always explaining this concept from the perspective of my games, at least for now, because it's my games that I understand and I'm sure of what I was thinking about, and it's always very fun when it pans out the way you're thinking about it, right? So yeah, my perspective. Yeah, coincidentally, I had made a video about the pawn structures in the King's Indian, the key pawn breaks, the different pawn structures, the different variations, and how your middle gameplay looks like based off of the pawn structures. If you've not watched that video, please go and watch that video because it's very instructive. Pawn structure is something that is very integral to your understanding of the opening and how you maneuver and place your pieces around in the middle game as you play for the middle game. So please, if you haven't seen that video, go watch that video. So coincidentally, today we're going to be looking at another King's Indian game with a really, really interesting positional sacrifice. Before we dive into the game, I want to say something. I was watching Garry Kasparov's masterclass here on YouTube yesterday. I don't know who uploaded the video, but I don't know if they have the right to, but I think that video is such a gem. Such kind of information should not be free on the internet. It's like a 7-hour long video, but I'm not done with it, but I've been watching it. And Kasparov said something about positional sacrifices that really struck me. He was like, sometimes a position feels balanced. Everything is okay. Everything seems like it's hanging in the balance. There's all this tension everywhere, or there's probably no tension at all. And then the opponent with the move makes a sacrifice, or they make a positional sacrifice, like I said, that just upsets the balance of the game, switches the entire balance to the favor of the person that played the move. It can be a sacrifice, can be a pawn sacrifice to open up the fire. It can be a piece sacrifice to just alter the way the position looks, the balance of the position. So essentially, that's what a positional sacrifice is. It's a sacrifice that alters the balance of the position, revealing the power of a piece somewhere, or just making my own position easier to play and your own position very cramped and you're looking for moves and all that. But anyway, maybe I may not be doing justice explaining it, but you guys should go check out that Kasparov masterclass too as well. But yeah, let's look at this game. As you can see, the stats for this game, I played this one with 95.4% accuracy, one brilliant move, one great move, 8 book moves. So you can see I'm very well versed in this King's Indian theory, or at least I like to think so. 11 best moves, 4 excellent moves, and a clean sheet all through. No blunders, no misses, no mistakes, no inaccuracies. And by the way, this is 2600 play. So really, really, really high level stuff. Let's see how this game developed. Anyway, my opener starts with d4. And like I said, the King's Indian is a very, very instructive opening and very solid against d4 kind of openings and c4 kind of openings too as well, of which now the only one I know for sure is the English. Anyway, I continue developing King's Indian style. My opponent continues to take up space in the center, and I prepare for my fianchetto. Okay, he develops. I play my fianchetto. He throws down in the center, and remember the pawn structure. This is the King's Indian pawn structure. You must remember this thing. Sometimes as a waiting move, somebody can flick in c6, but this is the core and the key pawn structure in the King's Indian, looking for breaks on this side or on this side. Remember, if you break on this side, you're leaning more towards a Benoni type structure, which is why the King's Indian, like I said in my previous video, the King's Indian is a very, very, very good opening for people that already have an understanding of the Benoni. It's a good transition. It's like a sister opening to the Benoni. So if you can play the Benoni, if you're familiar with Benoni structures, you will kill it in the King's Indian, and vice versa. If you're familiar with King's Indian structures, you will kill it in the Benoni. But yeah, of course, and while this other pawn break is more traditional with the King's Indian setup. Anyway, he plays this f3 move, and this already signifies the same-ish pawn chain. That's what I like to call this. This is called the same-ish variation of the King's Indian, but I call this pawn chain the same-ish pawn chain because it's very long and it's very beautiful. And how do you attack it? But there's nothing to fret here. It's just more rock solid to play this way. I castle, and he plays this bishop. This guy is really a same-ish guy. He knows the same-ish lines. This is same-ish variation King's Indian theory. Anyway, in this same-ish variation, in my experience, while this pawn break at this point is not bad, this traditional King's Indian pawn break is not bad, me personally, I find that I prefer this pawn break, this Benoni type pawn break. Maybe it's because like the Benoni, the name of the Benoni, I think Benoni is, the meaning of Benoni is son of sorrow or something like that. But Benoni players always like complicated positions, complicated stuff. Because how do you explain, this is essentially a pawn sacrifice. Okay, maybe this, you take and they take you first, and you take and they win this pawn, and then you go ahead and develop this. This is a pawn sacrifice. Who wants to give up a pawn this early in the middle game? It's only Benoni type players who feel like they can get an advantage, points to the slow development, the lack of castling, blah 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 blah. This is definitely Benoni type thing. This is how Benoni players will play. So this is why me personally, I'm not afraid to strike c5. But they don't go for that concrete variation. My opponent pushes down the pawn and everything is fine. I'm not gambiting the pawn now, and I have to now deal with this long pawn chain. Okay, the game continues and I go for my other pawn break. Remember, in the Benoni, when you push this pawn and they give you this is the game has essentially transposed to a Benoni like this. This is no longer a King's Indian. We might as well have started with the King's Indian, we might as well have started with the Benoni, with this. But yeah, so in line with the Benoni, I strike. I'm trying to crack this pawn chain. It's too long. Let's get at it. Let's do something. He goes for some exchange type thing so that he can castle queenside and begin to put pressure on my center. But I relieve the tension there. He takes this way, which is interesting because he's trying to preserve this chain. And I get out of any exchange type thing that could happen. I keep saying type thing, but I get out of the exchange because this bishop is very important in the King's Indian and in the Benoni. This Fianchetto bishop is very important. You don't want to exchange it. Anyway, he castles queenside, which is really interesting, right? Because I start to prepare my Benoni expansion. If you've played the Benoni well enough, you will understand that when you have this type of structure, it's always very good for you in the long term. By the time we're done maneuvering pieces and playing in the end game, this, my dominance with my queenside pawns, will decide the end game for me. So I prepare for my Benoni expansion and they go for the exchange, but I decline because, like I said, that bishop is very important, and even more important now because he has castled queenside. So as you can see, this bishop is going to be more useful for me along this diagonal. I don't want to exchange it. Let's keep it on the board. And the computer lists this as a great move. Anyway, play continues. He starts to throw down on my king side, having castled queenside, which is the logical thing to do. He wants to get a crack on my king side here and maybe even more pawns and gets his queens and whatever. Sorry, gets his queens into my position and just blew me off the board. But I continue with my Benoni expansion. Look at me. Look at the space. Anyway, what does he play? My opponent brings in the bishop. I'm like, fine, let me kick this knight out. Let's begin to rattle the position. And also, as you can see, more dark squares are beginning to fall. He goes this way. I'm like, fine, perfect time for me to snipe at that knight. He's not coming here, of course. He doesn't have much to do. So I use this bishop. This bishop is not really important in the King's Indian or the Benoni. It is important, please don't get me wrong. But I'm saying, my idea is, I find that in most variations, exchanging the bishop off early for another piece that is important to the white position is usually the best thing to do. King's Indian Benoni plays mostly with these three pieces, especially this bishop. Anyway, he goes to defend the integrity of that knight. But I hop in there anyway, knowing fully well that he's going to have to defend like this. And when I take, he will force a pawn here. And I've blown open his king side position. Of course, this is his queen side position, but his king is there now, so I'm calling it king side. So he does that, and I take it. I don't have to recapture back the spot. Of course, I'll drop my queen, but look at his position. He has double pawns. This pawn should be protecting his king. They should not be double. And the power of my bishop is slowly increasing. I'm like, fine, let me continue developing. Now, I bring this knight. I begin to bring this knight into the position so that I can get a crack on this pawn, right? He continues his expansion on my king side. Meanwhile, you see how he made the first move. He made the first attack on my king side. But because of the urgency of my own moves, His attack had to slow and wait for me to complete whatsoever I was doing before he finally makes this move. It's how many moves later? How many moves later? Playing with urgency, holding onto the tempo, and playing with a very, very, very high sense of urgency so that your opponent doesn't get any counter play. Anyway, I continue with my idea. Now this pawn is about to fall. Something has to be done about it. He doesn't do anything. He takes here, and I take this way. I take this way confidently, and this is away from the theory. The theory tells you that you should take towards the center, but that will be foolhardy right now because I'm opening up for this rook. But even beyond that, who is really going to disturb me on this diagonal? Who? How is this diagonal opening up? This diagonal is blockaded very neatly by his own pawn. I'm not going to really have trouble on this diagonal. So I feel more confident taking towards this way, still holding on to the integrity of my my king side pawn structure. Anyway, he continues to throw down because he doesn't have much to do. Of course, I win that pawn. That pawn is there. No, also, if he had played something else, or depending on what he played, remember that this was also still looking like a good option. This is still not a bad place for the knight. But anyway, I'm like, let me just take the pawn. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I can hold the pawn. He takes back and I take here. His king side position is already blown up. Look, I'm at least coyly controlling the dark squares right now. I'm about to hop in here with my queen. Look at the coordination between this queen and this bishop. All because I made that intelligent decision in the beginning to refuse this exchange and keep my own bishop. His bishop is out of play. This bishop is not doing anything in the game. Anyway, he goes now to utilize the bishop and take out this knight. But in this position, I play a brilliancy. And this is, while this can be considered as a tactic, I think for the purpose of this video, it's a positional sacrifice. Because look at this carefully contrived position right now by the white pieces. Everything seems okay. Look at this pawn structure. Very neat, very nice. Helping, at least for the time being, protect that center. But look at my pieces. How do I realize my advantage? How does this dark squared bishop come to life? How does the power of that dark squared bishop come to life? Initially, I thought about this move. But I'm like, after that, what next? I recapture with the rook. And yes, it still seems playable and fine. But the move I found and the move I calculated was this positional brilliancy. The idea being that if he takes here, which he did, I take back here, and it's a fork. This move carries so much threat. So much threat. It's a fork, first and foremost. Secondly, the power of my light squared bishop is suddenly revealed. Suddenly. What does he do? And I'm going to be entering into the position forcefully. I'm attacking the queen first and foremost. He has to play with urgency. He goes this way. And then I first of all hit with check. No, notice that the king cannot run here because this knight is still covering that only escape square. He goes this way. And then I hit him with another check. And my opponent resigned. Because how do you even begin to deal with this? Maybe sacrifice the queen. You have only this place. And it's just, I will pick them out like flies. I will pick them out like flies. It's like all this was made possible because of this positional brilliancy in this King's Indian setup. Look, the idea of these videos is just to inspire you I'm by no means, the fact that I had one good game doesn't make me a master all of a sudden. No, we're all just learning the game. I'm learning the game too, and I'm enjoying the game as I'm learning it. But yeah, the idea of this video is to inspire you to look for these kinds of positional sacrifices, positional brilliances too. When you get to a middle game that everything seems okay, the position seems quiet, try and see if you can find that one move that's boom. Bobby Fischer called it a monkey wrench. You just throw in a monkey wrench into their position, make a sacrifice, put a piece somewhere that will just make their position shift, upset the entire balance, and just give you all the advantages and give them all the disadvantages. And before you know it, they are blown out of the board. Thank you very much, you guys, for supporting me. Please remember to like and subscribe and share and do all these positive things to me. Like my channel, subscribe, and turn on post notifications because I'm creating these videos every other week. I'm forcing myself to come up with a video, look through my game, see what I can learn, see what I can investigate, see what I can teach, because they say teaching is one of the best forms of learning. I found in my own personal life that teaching helps me learn. So, yeah, I hope to learn more, and I hope that this video adds to your chess and that you take it and you roll with it and you improve and all that fun stuff. Thank you guys for rocking with me. Once again, please don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.